intelligence which the ancients possessed, just like that. And we have inherited the same brain, remember. And our boys and girls in schools and colleges and universities come and tell us, oh, I can't remember anything. The moment I study something, next moment I forget. And the standard practice is, you remember the whole thing till you enter the examination hall. The moment you enter the examination hall, something happens to you, you forget the whole thing. Come out and you remember the whole thing. Something happens to you. That something is what is called lack of seriousness, lack of attention, lack of concentration. Because you have lost faith in yourself. Can I do it? Become nervous, the whole thing is gone. There were people, is recorded authentically in our books, who were so absorbed in their writing and learning, they did not know whether the sun rose or set. The story of Vachaspati Mishra, one of the Sarvatantra Swatantra was his name. He was so well versed with all the philosophies. He was the only person who wrote a commentary on each of the Shad-darshanas. His famous book, the commentary on the Brahma Sutra, Bhashya of Shankaracharya, is a magnum opus. The story is, he was so absorbed in writing, he did not know whether he ate, whether he slept, whether the sun rose or set. And after having forgotten time and space and absorbed in what he was doing, in the pursuit of spiritual knowledge, the lamp under which he was writing was slowly flickering. The oil had become less. Then suddenly he saw an old woman pouring some oil into it. He looked at her and remembered that years ago he had married a young woman who was now turned old. It is not a joke, it's a real incident. Then he felt so sad. He had forgotten that he had married. That woman never complained. Did not go to the Women's Commission to claim her rights. Because she was a participant in the great spiritual knowledge seeking of the husband. She has come to participate in the whole yajna. Then he felt very sad. Oh, I have not attended to you all those years. Which one? You see, the stories about so many scientists, there's no time to now discuss that. Sir Isaac Newton. Newton never knew when he ate or did not eat. There's a story about Newton. He was invited by a friend for dinner. But the friend knew that Newton wouldn't come in time. He was so absorbed in his laboratory. So he waited and waited, finished his dinner and went back. Newton suddenly remembered, oh, I had an invitation. He came and saw the plate on the table, somebody had eaten, and he said, what a fool I am, I had eaten and I'm now coming back to eat, and went back to the laboratory. These are not jokes, these are recorded incidents. You must have heard of Professor Wiener, the famous mathematician of the present day. He was in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the USA. There's a story about him. He was so absorbed in his mathematics that he never used to remember how he dressed, where he went. One day, they moved their apartment. His wife told him, you see, we are moving to such and such a place, don't go back to the old house. This is the address, keep it in your pocket. This is the phone number, you call me if necessary. Right? He said, no, I will not forget. Do you mean to say I am such a fool? I will remember, don't worry. He went to his office. Suddenly a very interesting mathematical problem occurred to him. He was looking for a piece of paper frantically, saw a paper in his pocket. At the back he scribbled something for a long time and finally found that the problem wouldn't work. Threw it in the waste paper basket. As usual, he came back to the old apartment. Remembered, oh, my wife told me that they have moved to a new place. Where is that? Gone. Address. Then a bright idea came to him. I can ask somebody, Professor Wiener is so famous. The small girl was standing there. Said, dear kid, can you tell me where Professor Wiener has moved? He has moved his apartment. Then the girl smiled and said, Dad, Mom had kept me here only to tell you this. This is not a story. This is recorded in his life. So if this could happen to Wiener, how much more to Vachaspati Mishra? How much more to Ramakrishna's life is a standing example. He did not know when the sun rose or set. What I'm trying to say is, it is possible for a person to be so absorbed in what he is doing in the pursuit of knowledge, he will not attend to the demands of his body or anything else in the society. It is possible. Not that he is doing it intentionally. He is so absorbed he doesn't know what he is doing. Those of you who have got deeply absorbed in anything, any pursuit will know this. So Vachaspati Mishra felt very bad about his treatment of his wife and said, her name is Bhamati. This commentary on the Bhashya of Shankaracharya's Brahma Sutra will be named after you. It's called Bhamati Tika. Even now, it is called the Bhamati Tika. You will remain immortal through this Tika. So it is possible for a person to be so absorbed once he has developed this idea of Shraddha. I will pursue this come what may. This is my passion. Swami Vivekananda said, passionately you pursue it. He said, 3 things are necessary for a patriot, for a Deshabhakta. Several places he has mentioned this. Once in his famous lecture in the My Plan of Campaign in Madras. The other is his famous lecture in My Master in America and England. Our young friends should read Swami Vivekananda's lectures from Colombo to Almora when he came back to India. Read some of his books and absorb them. Feel inspired. One sentence may inspire you for life. It has inspired countless people and it is still inspiring many. He said the first step is you should feel from the heart. Do you feel that the descendants of sages have become next door neighbors to brute? Do you feel the darkness of ignorance has come over the land like a cloud? Do you feel people are starving? Does it make you sleepless? Does it make you forget your own bodies, your minds, your children, your money, your possessions? Have you become almost mad with the idea of the removal of ignorance from others? This is the first step. Feeling, which you call bhakti in Sanskrit. But this is not all. Instead of wasting your time in frothy feeling and soppy sentimentalism, have you found out a practical method? Have you worked out a clear solution, thought about it carefully with your intellect and intelligence? A clear-cut plan. This is the second step, which is called jnana in Sanskrit. Even that is not all. You may have an intense feeling, you may have a clear-cut plan to execute, but you may not have the strength to execute it, because the moment a small obstacle arises in your path, you may develop a cold feet and run away. Do you have the courage? Do you have the will to execute what you feel and what you have thought about? Swamiji's language is so powerful. If the entire world stands before you, sword in hand, ready to crush you out, will you still dare to do what you feel is right? Do you have that courage? Do you have the strength? Do you have that confidence? This is called karma. Bhakti, jnana and karma, if these 3 are harmoniously combined in a person, and if this is enveloped, interpenetrated through concentration or Raja Yoga, a harmony of Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga will make you a complete human being. This was Swami Vivekananda's ideal of education. An education which can impart a total vision to a person. He is equally developed in the heart, equally developed in intellect, equally developed in the power to execute, the capacity to be able to do things, and equally developed in concentration. Swami Vivekananda said, you should be intensely emotional. You should be able to cry at the sufferings of millions. You should be deeply moved. You should have a very, very sensitive, extremely sensible heart. You feel for nature. The moment you see a beautiful sunrise, it should move you to tears. Unfortunately, as Swami Vivekananda said, our present education has cut us away from nature. We live in tall rises and air-conditioned rooms, very carefully cutting out sunlight. We rush to Kanyakumari, spending several thousand rupees to see the sunrise and sunset. At your doorstep, the moment you open the window, you see the sunrise and the sunset. But people want glamour. I saw in such and such a place and saw the sun rising. Sun is there for you. The sunrise, the beauty of the trees, the color of the clouds, chirping of birds. When you just listen to the chirping of birds early in the morning from the tree, you feel the entire nature is simply crying for sheer joy. Feel this. Feel sensitive. Rabindranath felt it. A Milton or a Shakespeare felt it. A Wordsworth or a Shelley felt it. Shelley talks about the white radiance of eternity. Look at the words which just came out from his mouth. The white radiance of eternity will come when all the colors are combined. Sensitivity, feeling for nature. You ask any man of science and technology, have you read the Gitanjali which brought the Nobel Prize? I asked several of the Bengali boys. Hare, Gitanjali brought the Nobel Prize for which Rabindranath became world famous. They're the pride of Bengal. Then he smiled and said, as if I asked a stupid question, we belong to science stream, sir. I belong to a science stream and therefore I can't be moved by poetry, I can't be moved by music. What kind of human being are you? So the sensitive brain, but mere sentimentalism and emotionalism will not do. You should have a clearly thought out idea. Swami Vivekananda was dead against people who had frothy emotions, jumping about and wasting time in talking big, as I am doing now. Swami Vivekananda said, Indians are great talkers. An ounce of practice is worth 1,000 tons of big talk, he said. We can't practice anything. We can only talk and have seminars. Get inspired by them, but work it out in your practical life. Swamiji said, pick out 5 ideas, a half a dozen ideas, and make them your very life. If you have lived 5 ideas, you are more learned than a person who has got by heart the whole library. If information gathering were equivalent to education, encyclopedias and dictionaries will be great rishis and sages. At the present moment, he would have said, the CDs and the iPods would be the great sages. So much of information we have, but what did he do with that information? So the feeling heart, a razor sharp intellect and brain, we can immediately analyze the problems, coolly, quietly, objectively, mercilessly. And after having done both of these, can you execute it at the ground level? We talk out there at the space level, but at the ground reality, can you execute it for the good of humanity? That is the courage of conviction and the power of the karma yoga, about which Sri Krishna speaks about it. All these 4 together should be enveloped by concentration. There's the great symbol which he gave for the Ramakrishna movement, Ramakrishna Mutt and the Ramakrishna mission, in which he said there's a beautiful lotus blooming. The lotus is symbolic of bhakti, the rising sun is symbolic of jnana, and the wavy waters in the ocean symbolic of karma, while the serpent which is encircling the whole thing stands for the Kundalini Shakti and the yoga. And the meaning of the picture therefore is, he said, by a combination, a harmonious blending of jnana, bhakti, karma and yoga, the vision of the Paramatman represented by the Hamsa or the swan in the picture, is realized. This was Swami Vivekananda's idea of a complete educated human being. We may not be able to achieve it to the fullest extent. But as Dr. Radhakrishnan used to say, what cannot be wholly attained need not be wholly abandoned. You can attain it, you can approximate it. So you can, if you are very emotional by temperament, you cultivate knowledge. If you are very emotional at the same time you have a sharp intellect, but you are afraid of executing this, do something positive by which you can gain courage. So harmoniously try to blend all these four faculties. Mere theoretical and bookish knowledge, which will not give you the courage to negotiate the currents and cross currents of life which have to come to everyone, this is only tinsel, this is not education. Sri Ramakrishna has a beautiful story in the gospel. You know, Ramakrishna never lectured, but he told interesting stories like Buddha or Christ. The story is well known. Most of you would know this story. People were going on a boat ride. In that boat there was a great scholar, a Pandit, who knew so many kinds of philosophies and so many scriptures. And as you know, scholars usually talk about it in bombastic terms, will try to parade their knowledge, harangue so that to impress others, so that people will say, oh, you know so much. Particularly if you can quote from Sanskrit, you are on the top of the world, Sanskrit and English. But the poor boatman who was rowing the boat, he was absolutely unlettered, uneducated, but he knew how to take the boat across. So he was looking at this Pandit as if he was a omniscience incarnate, and this Pandit was asking him, do you know something about Vedanta, man? Sir, I know nothing about Vedanta. Ah, what a beautiful system. 1/4 of your life is wasted, sir. Then he was feeling very small. Then he was talking about Patanjala Yoga. After some time he said, do you know something about Patanjala Yoga system? Sir, I have not heard about it. Half of your life is gone. Then do you know something about Vyakarana, grammar? No, sir. Oh, 3/4 of your life is gone. Then there's a terrible gale storm and thunderstorm and the boat was rocking about to capsize. Then this helmsman became terribly afraid. Sir, do you know how to swim? Well, sir, no, your whole life is gone. Swami Ranganathanandaji used to repeat this story so many times to us to show you may know everything theoretically as I'm lecturing now, but do we have the courage to negotiate the currents and cross currents of life? When I swim along the ocean of life, there will be sharks, there will be whales and so many kinds of animals, species in the waters who will attack me. Can I face them? Do I have the courage? At the smallest obstacle, if I crumble, what is the use of my education? Education has not given me the courage to stand on my feet and face problems. So I should know the art of swimming the ocean of life along with the education which I have received. There is another story in Chandogya Upanishad, one of the oldest of Upanishads. There is a great sage called Narada. All of you have heard of Narada. He was a very great sage and highly learned. He had studied so much but had no peace, full of sorrow. He goes to a sage called Sanat Kumara and then tells him, oh sir, Shochami, I am so full of sorrow. Please take me across the ocean of sorrow. Shokasya param tarayatu. With great poignancy and terrible agony, he requests his teacher, please take me across sorrow. Then he himself says, I learned so much, but we have heard from teachers like you that only a person who has known himself, Atmavid, alone can go beyond sorrow. Tarati Shokam Atmavit. These three words form a single sentence a mantra in the Chandogya Upanishad, which form the very essence, the core of the Indian spiritual wisdom. Tarati Shokam Atmavit. Atmavit, a person who knows himself. Shokam Tarati, who goes beyond sorrow. Tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhira tesham shanti shashvati netaresham. Kathopanishad. Only a person has known himself. He may know everything in the outside world, but he does not know himself. Himself meaning his body, his mind, his intellect, his spirit. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. I have no conception about my own body. Very interestingly, we study so much, we do not know how our bodies are functioning. Every limb of our body is so beautifully coordinated. A DNA, small book by the Reader's Digest, those of you who are interested, please do read this book, The Human Body. It's a very small, interesting book, written particularly for the layman. There's a chapter in the DNA which says every DNA cell has a memory which time cannot dim. Every DNA has 100,000 coded messages. If the entire thing is decoded, if a typist sits down and types the whole thing out, it will cover 1,000 volume encyclopedia. One DNA. And we have billions and trillions of DNA inside the body. And sitting in this multiple cell system, crying, I am weak, I am small, this man is my enemy, I hate this man, I will commit. Are we not ashamed? Even a simple book on physiology and biology will tell you how glorious you are. The human body is so glorious, how much more the human mind? If the human mind is more glorious, how much more is the human intelligence? If the human intelligence is so glorious, how much more the human spirit? And we are that composite structure of the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, and we are the most glorious beings on the earth. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, as Jesus the Christ said in the Bible, and you will dance for joy once you realize the glory of your own self. This is what happened to the rishis. Rishis suddenly started dancing for sheer joy, because I have realized my own glory. Aham vrikshasya reriva kirti prishtham gireriva. Statement in Taittiriya Upanishad. My glory is like that of a huge mountain. Oh, I have realized my own self. How, ahamannam, 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 ahamannado, ahamannado, ahamannada, ahagga shlokagrid, ahagga shlokagrid, ahagga shlokagrid. Taittiriya Upanishad. He says, ha, what a wonderful state I am in. I am the glorious human being. Ashtavakra Samhita, the ultra-Advaitic text, goes to an extreme physician and says, I am that infinite ocean of consciousness in which so many jivas and so many human beings and animals and plants and worlds arise and fall. I am that infinite self. Mai anandam aham bodho ascharyam jiva vijayaha udyanti ghranti khelanti pravishanti swabhavataha. Swami Vivekananda used to speak about this very often. In one lecture in the West, he startled the audience by saying, never forget the glory of human nature. Buddha's son cries are but the waves of the infinite ocean which I am. He struck his chest and said, I am the greatest human being. I am the infinite ocean of consciousness in which so many beings come and go. This will give you confidence. The confidence which arises from your mind and body are very flimsy. I have read so much, after sometimes you forget. Towards the end of his life, so tragically we saw Dr. Radhakrishnan, the famous philosopher and such a genius of a philosopher, completely lost his memory. He could not even recognize anybody. This is the fragility of your intellect, of your body, of your mind. But the spirit which you are, the eternal, undecaying, undying Atman, Nainam Chintanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavagaha, Nachainam Kledayantyapo, Rasoshaita Maradaha, Achedyoyam, Adahyoyam, Makledyo, Asoshevacha, Nitya Sarvagata Sthana, Rachaloyam Sanatanaha. The Bhagavad Gita. These are not mere words. These are based on the realizations of rishis and sages, said you are the greatest human being on earth. Don't feel weak. Don't weep saying I am small, I am little. So the Sanat Kumara looked at Narada and said, "Oh, you are full of sorrow because you do not know your own self. Come on, tell me what you know so that I can teach you farther." That's the entry level. Unfortunately, if you don't know anything, you can be taught. If you know something, then you have to be de-educated before you can be educated. There is a story of a great musician to whom two disciples went to learn. One of them said, "Sir, I don't know anything about music, but I hear that your fees are very high. I can't pay so much." They looked at him and said, "All right, you pay 500 rupees. Next man said, "Sir, I have studied music for 3 years. I have a background." Then he said, "You have to pay 1,500 rupees. "Sir, you asked for 500 from this man. I have a background, sir." "Yes, that is why I am charging you 500 rupees. But 1,000 is to make you forget what you already know. Because I have to erase your previous impressions of music so that you can start afresh." So Narada gave a huge list of what he knew. The Chandogya Upanishad, read the passage, is so inspiring. Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, the 4 Vedas I know thoroughly. Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda, Jyotish, all the 6 Vedangas I know fully. Sarpa Vidya, Nakshatra Vidya, Rashi Vidya, Nidhi Vidya, Bhuta Vidya, so many Vidyas, about 25 Vidyas I know thoroughly. I have in my pocket 100 PhDs and 25 Nobel Prizes, but I am full of sorrow. Please save me from this sorrow. Tarati Shokam Atmavit. Then he smiled and said, "All that you know, Narada, are only words and words and words. Namai Vaitat. You have memorized so many words. I am going to teach you the real wisdom by which you will know yourself. All the knowledge that you can acquire is possible provided you awaken the self-knowledge. That we have put the cart before the horse in our education. Education system should awaken the child to his own real nature. His mind should be fully awakened, fully concentrated, pure. With a pure, concentrated mind, he or she can acquire anything at will, just like that. It's called Shruti Dhara. Shruti Dhara means a person just listening once, he will know the whole thing. It's not a joke. It is just like you have a brain which is a Xerox machine or a photocopier. The whole thing immediately copied there. Been demonstrated by Shankaracharya, demonstrated by Swami Vivekananda in the present day. Swamiji was very ill at Belur Math, almost dying. At that time, he purchased 25 volumes of shining volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica, recently published. Although Belur Math was short of funds, Swamiji has so much passion for knowledge. His dear disciple, Sharat Chandra Chakravarti, came to his room, seeing this volume, said, "It is impossible for a human being to finish reading these volumes in his lifetime." Swamiji smiled and said, "I knew you were stupid, but you are demonstrating it now. I have finished 10 volumes and I am reading the 11th volume. You ask any question from the 10 volumes, I will answer." Look at the Guru happily asking the disciple to examine him. He actually did examine. He took up volume 7, opened a page, asked him. Swamiji answered. At random he was asking questions. Swamiji repeated exactly the same passage. Then he said, "Swamiji, this is superhuman achievement." India, we are very fond of this. We admire and worship great men, don't follow them. It's very easy. Have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Oh, Bhagavad Gita, such a great sacred text. I have a small book put on my puja shelf. I put flowers every day. It is too sacred to be opened and read and followed. Vivekananda, such a great man. I worship him. How can we follow him? We are all small, little, insignificant, stupid human beings. He is so great. Jai Swamiji Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Finished. This is exactly what Swami Vivekananda discouraged. In fact, once he said, if somebody comes and worships me and does arati before me, I'll become a ghost and break his neck. You fellows will not follow anything of what I say, will keep on worshipping, glorify. Don't glorify me. In India, Hero worshiping, glorifying great men is our passion, ritual. Immediately one ritual, one image will be made, we'll go round and round, break coconuts. We should break our heads with those coconuts rather than breaking it before the Lord. Swamiji was so tired of these rituals, rituals everywhere, but nobody follows anything. So he said, this is superhuman, you tell me, this is very much human, you also can do it. By the power of brahmacharya, the power of purity, power of concentration, nothing is impossible for the human brain. One simple way of escaping is to say, this is so great, I can't do it. Ramakrishna had an interesting story. There was a disciple, very lazy disciple, who went to the Guru. Then he said, what am I supposed to do? I have to serve the Guru. Then, sir, I'm going to serve you, I want your instruction. The Guru said, sweep this floor. This is my room. Then he said, sir, I'm so unholy. How can I sweep the floor on which you sleep? Then the Guru himself swept the floor. After some time he said, can you prepare some hot water for me? So with these unholy hands, sir, how can I serve you hot water, sir? Then Guru himself prepared hot water. After he said, so hot, please fan me. Sir, how can I fan you, sir, with my unholy hands? The Guru started fanning himself. The disciple went behind him and stood like this. What are you doing? I'm getting some prasadi air. The Guru is fanning, he is getting some prasadi wind. So this is exactly what we do. Avoid the whole thing in the name of great devotion and don't follow anything.